Hello, everyone. My name is Lucy Heavens, and welcome to CMO Therapy, a podcast that's hopefully going to help you on your marketing journey. Because let me tell you, I get it. Being a marketing leader is no walk in the park. In each episode, we dive headfirst into the world of marketing, where uncertainty, tight budgets, and fierce competition are just the beginning of the roller coaster ride. But guess what? You are not alone in this. Why go solo when you can tap into the powerhouse of insights from some of the most awesome marketing leaders in the game? And look, the title of the podcast might include the word therapy, but we are not just talking about challenges here. We are tackling them head on. Join us as we dive into the nitty gritty, share war stories, and unlock secret strategies. And get ready for no holds barred conversations because sometimes I have no filter. So if you are a chief marketing officer, a marketing lead, or just someone looking to up their marketing game, then I am so glad that you are here with us today. And today I am very glad to have the very awesome Michelle here with me. Michelle, can you give a little bit of an introduction?
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. Thanks very much, Lucy, for inviting me on. Been looking forward to this for a little while now. So I'm Michelle Boland. I've been in marketing for over 25 years. So have seen it nearly all, frankly. For the last 18, I've spent my time mostly on boards and ops execs or senior leadership teams. I have an MBA from Cranfield. I'm a fellow of the CIM. And my niche, my special space is EdTech, a bit of FinTech, and SaaS as well. So those are the things that have gone through my career, as it were. I have equal amounts of experience in both B2B and consumer. So nearly every one of my roles has been straddling both of those, which I know is quite the chasm to stretch across sometimes. But it's just the way that it's worked out, that the products that I've been able to market have been suitable for both areas. In my spare time, when I'm not marketing, because I'm fractional at the moment and interim as well, I'm a podcaster. So I'm doing this obviously with you, and I do it with other people as well. I'm a fledgling keynote speaker, so trying to break into that space as well. I'm a coach, and I'm a Ned and a chair as well. So lots of different fingers in lots of different pies. But my one true love will always be marketing and brand.
Awesome. Oh my God, I have so many questions, but I'm trying to contain myself. I really am. I want to talk about everything, Michelle. But what we are
Part
going to
one
talk
of part of
yeah,
three parts,
exactly.
clearly.
Yeah, this is part 1 of 6. But what we are going to talk about today, the title that we landed on, which I just love this, is When Two Chiefs Are Better Than One, The Rise of the Power Couple. So what are we talking? We are not talking about Taylor Swift and Travis. We are not talking about William and Catherine. We are talking about the CMO and the CRO. And where this came about was, if I remember rightly, I love this. We're both a member of a same community, a mutual community, where this conversation came up. I remember this conversation came up around when marketing sits within the organization, and how there's this kind of like trend at the moment where businesses, especially businesses that have like grown fast through acquisition, or they've they've kind of all either grown fast or they've been sort of acquired, and then there's this kind of assumption that marketing then automatically rolls up into the commercial department. And I always remember, actually, this is what caught my attention. You wrote this amazingly kind of like long message, really one of the best, or not one of, sorry, the best distinction between the chief commercial officer and the chief marketing officer, between the two roles and what they do. And I just absolutely loved it. And I'm not going to give it away now what the surprise is, because that's obviously what we're going to talk about. But that's why I messaged you and begged you to come and onto the podcast and talk to me. So thank you.
No problem. Thank you for that. It's always funny on those. You can, everyone I think just dips in and out of those WhatsApp groups, but they're so brilliant, and it's in the same vein of what you're doing here. It's trying to bring people together, and I'm on several of them, but that's a very recent thing. Up until a couple of years ago, I wasn't on really any of them, and it was a lonely place. So, now to actually have access to the hive mind, as I call it, is amazing. There's always somebody with the answer, which is great.
It's so interesting. Right, don't take me off on a tangent here because this is going to be a long podcast otherwise. But
There's going to be Easter eggs about what we're talking about, but we won't actually have time to get to it.
I literally just so yesterday, I actually was graffitiing in London, legally, by the way. It was part of
Excellent.
an organised trip, and it was really interesting because I'm not very creative. I'm more spreadsheets and Excel than Word, but I had this like have this newfound respect for the kind of more sort of artistic community. And I was in Graffiti Tunnel by Waterloo Station, and it was amazing. They were talking about community and how everyone kind of like respects each other and everything. But
Yeah.
anyway, I got into this conversation with one of the graffiti artists there, and he was saying about, about the community and what it's brought for him and the support and everything like that. It's not what he expected. He came to the tunnel to actually just do his own artwork. But he said that's the difference. He said when people come to this graffiti tunnel, like by Waterloo Station, Leek Street it is called. He said that people come there not to just to be on their own and to do their own work. They come there to be part of the community. And I said to him, it's really interesting because I feel the same about communities in my line of work as well, in business. I think a lot of people like go to communities for the wrong reasons. Like they'll go there on their own expecting to get introductions to people or to find a new
Yeah.
job. Whereas if you go there with the other mindset of like, I want to be part of this community, all of those things, plus so many more benefits, will actually come back to you. So yeah, go there with more of a giving mentality than like a taking mentality.
The amount you get out is directly correlated to the amount you give, right?
Yeah,
In any situation. And I think especially, and the one we're particularly talking about is one for sort of CMOs, very, very senior. And, it's a kind of hallowed space in many respects. It's so lovely to have so many people at that level to talk to co-coach, there's mentoring going on. There's all sorts of things going on within that space. And it's such a privilege and so lovely to be part of it.
it is definitely. Right, back on track. So,
Right, let's go.
so you
Enough of
said
this faffing about with press releases. Right.
you said something that really in that message that I mentioned. You said something that the kind of like, what's the word, like hit me in the feels, and that was that the chief commercial officer drives revenue today and the chief marketing officer builds revenue for tomorrow.
Yeah.
So can you talk me through that? Like, yeah, how why do you see that, and why are so many businesses not seeing it like that?
Well, I mean, you've kind of said it. I think commercials people, whether it's revenue directors or CROs or CCOs or sales folks, they're focused on the now. It's hitting this quarter. It's the deal that's got to be done. It's the relationship that's got to be renewed. It's the pipeline coverage, and it's loud and it's immediate and it's really super tangible. And it's what a lot of people have talked about for a lot of years at the most senior levels of businesses. Marketing, let's face it, we're supposed to be more future focused, right? Now, I will pause for a second and I will say, at this point, I would like to just ignore the majority of the marketing director and CMO job descriptions that we all see floating about at the moment, where you're supposed to be a pink unicorn that can do absolutely everything and basically just be a lead magnet.
Yeah.
There's more to marketing than that, as we're all aware. But marketing are supposed to be future focused. So we're there to make sure that really, there is demand next quarter and next year and within the next midterm plan. We're working on market positioning. We're looking at growing the brand preference. We want to try to predict the future by understanding where growth is coming from before sales start feeling that pinch.
Yeah.
So we want to help them, direct where to go. That's where customer segmentation comes in and the understanding of, the obtainable market, for example. So I think the wheels start to come off a little bit in sort of mid to large organizations and some scaling as well, where they start to think that those two horizons can be owned in a single role in the long term. And in that situation, what ends up happening is a prioritization based on short-termism, basically. So short-term conversion and leads at the expense of long-term growth, which, as we all know, will actually do the business a favor in the long run because it will bring down the cost of sales. So it's short-sighted. The short-termism is short-sighted in many respects, but I think that's the challenge. That's the difference. It's easy to listen to sales and their often loud focus on the now. And if you don't get me this, we won't get the relationship, we won't get the deal. Marketing are playing the longer game.
Yeah. It's because that's the reason I kind of referred to, or where my brain was going with the companies that have been through an acquisition recently, or they are kind of like fast growing. That's kind of the problem. Is it's almost like it's at that stage where they really are just like hyper focused on the tomorrow, not the on the now, not the
Yeah.
tomorrow or the immediate.
And I think that's where, strangely, so I mean, we are going a bit off track, but time was, obviously, when a company was moving out of startup into scale up or into sort of hypergrowth, they would have to look at their board and they would have to think about those core hires that they needed. And a lot of the time they could only afford certain people on the board. And that's where you'd have sales, like old-fashioned sales and marketing directors, essentially, because why not? They're both commercial in their own way. I mean, at least we were getting a nod to commercialism in the marketing team then, but they're both commercial, may as well just do that. But there's a massive difference between the two. I think now, though, companies should wake up. There are different options available. You and I are both examples of that. There's interims, there's fractionals, there are fractional interims. There are all sorts of ways that you can cut that salary cake to ensure that actually you have the people focused at the very top, helping you deliver that hyper growth that you need, or that scale that you need. The one thing that is dreadful: don't hire a single senior person, then expect them to write copy. Why?
Yeah.
What a waste of your money. I mean, more than anything else. I mean, that person's more than capable, I'm sure. They've done it for years. But why? When actually there are these part-time fractional positions that work really well in that scenario.
This is where I'm always kind of a little bit sort of in two minds, actually. So going back to kind of like then the startup and maybe like your first hire. And I've been part of conversations before, and I get this, right? I've been part of conversations before where they've said, don't bring in like a senior person as your first hire. Get like somebody that is quite I hate it. I'm going to use the word scrappy, but I hate it when people
Scrappy
describe
operational generalist.
Yeah, I hate when people use scrappy and they're using it scrappy because they mean basically exactly what you said, like get someone in that's going to be good at everything, and like no one's good at like
No.
everything. But yeah, I think what ends up happening there is that the marketing do end up, because you don't have that senior person, the one that's kind of setting the strategy and really understands what how marketing can achieve those company goals. They're really in the tactical phase of everything. They do end up being like sales support, right? And then that's where it almost sets a bit of a precedent, and they start then rolling up like into the commercial sort of team and end up being that kind of like lead gen admin. So how can we sort of avoid that misunderstanding, would you say, then, without having to, like, as your first marketing hire, or even if you are having a kind of a marketing problem, hiring that kind of senior person, sort of expecting them to do everything? I don't know. I wasn't sure what my question was then, but I think you see where I'm going.
Well, I think so. I mean, if you're asking kind of why does marketing get treated as sales support,
Yeah.
I think there's three core reasons in my view for that. So sometimes I'm going to be harsh on our kin now. Sometimes marketing is subpar, right? Doesn't achieve KPIs, maybe doesn't have KPIs, just creates assets. So not adding actually any value into the chain.
Yeah.
And potentially that generalist or that more junior person, untrained, just thinks that, and especially now we've got a lot of people who have become very focused on content creation or social media, who post themselves, who are positioning themselves as marketers. Well, there's an entire broad church about marketing that's outside of the social digital sphere
Mm.
that needs to be considered and looked at and understood in order to be able to deliver marketing effectively. So again, you've got that sort of untrained aspect, and Ritson has stats upon stat, but is it 70% of marketers are untrained, something like that?
Yep.
It must be true because I've just said it, so it must be a fact now. I think the second, for me, the biggest challenge is that, as we've said before, like, sales is loud and immediate,
Mm.
and marketing takes longer to show results, especially if you may not have the systems, the processes, or the external support to do that, especially if you're trying to measure something like brand. So, again, the the flashy showman gets, or salesperson gets to be front and center and be talking with certainty about what's happening because they've got robust numbers, whereas marketing, we're like, yeah,
Yeah.
look at
100%.
this logo, and that's
Yeah.
because that's what sometimes people are focusing on. And I think the third aspect, which I think is then coming back round to the other aspect of your question, which is the inherent organizational design challenge.
Mm.
Right. So if no one is at board advocating for marketing, and if it isn't seen as equal, well, why is it going to be treated as such?
Yeah.
It'll be
Yeah.
relegated to ops, or to tech, or to something else that is less. I think people forget that it's customer facing and it's revenue generating.
Yeah. I think for me, it's like scale it comes down to is what I'm like hearing. And sort of, what I've sort of seen, I suppose, as well, is that, it does work tactically. Let's be totally honest. It does work where you are doing that kind of scrappy thing to start off with, and you are seeing
Absolutely.
those leads coming in. You then bring sales in to close those leads out, right? Because marketing aren't closers. You bring sales in to close them out, and then obviously the salesperson is then, well, I just want more and more and more of the same. That's what I want. But actually, that's not how marketing scales. You'll hit a ceiling of that at some point. That's when you need to start being a little bit more strategic and less tactical. And then that's where you hit that organizational sort of problem then, because that person isn't the right person to do that, right?
Absolutely. So one of the core things I look at within Pink Umbrella, my own consultancy, is growing with purpose. So
Mm.
that organizational design with purpose that can see you through the next 1 to 5 years, that stops that duplication, which is brilliant for people in startups, so that they know what their next hire is, or if this market force happens, what to do then. So it's actually trying to give people that plan rather than the knee-jerk reaction of, well, we need X, Y, or Z,
Mm.
which then leads to duplicate, and then obviously leads to someone like me having to come in and unpick the whole thing,
Yeah.
because obviously it's not right. I just think that there's a lot of traditional thinking that goes on in terms of org design, which, as we've talked about with fractional options, it doesn't need to be either or.
Yeah.
The power of the two is far greater than one individual.
Yeah, so I want to unpack that a little bit more then, because like you mentioned that a second ago, it's a really really good point. And I did read this LinkedIn post the other day that said your growth has stalled because you don't have a CMO at the table.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, it sounds like something that actually you do stand by that then. I mean, what's the implications of not having the CMO at the
Mhm.
table?
I mean, I agree with it. Um, I agree with it, with a caveat, I guess. Um, I think growth stalls when nobody is owning it strategically.
Mm.
I think so. What happens when a CMO joins the board for the first time is several things start to shift, and including that conversation around growth, right? And I think that's the most telling thing. So it moves from, how do we close that sale, or how do we hit that target, to, where is growth going to come from next? Where are the opportunities in the market? What do we need to do with our product, or with our service, to ensure that it's brilliant, so that the customers want to come to us, stay with us, and renew with us? That's the type of conversation. So we want conversations about positioning, customer experience, CLTV, because that's what those things is what stops growth flatlining way after the easy, low-hanging fruit of sales deals are done.
Mm.
That's what's building your pyramid later.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So we're not saying here, and nowhere in that answer that you just gave me, did you actually even refer to a CMO or a CRO or a
No.
CCO, whatever, Chief Commercial Officer? You just said there needs to be ownership of that growth strategy.
Yeah. I mean, I think the point is that when you've got a chief marketing officer on a board, because they are there, and I don't know about you, I feel strongly I'm the customer representative, right? So,
Yes. Yeah.
I'm the, if you don't have a chair with a customer's face on it, I am the face of the customer. So that's when you've got someone like that who's challenging the standard speak in boards about targets and where to next, and actually continues to bring it back to the customer. What do we need to do? What's the market telling us? What's everyone else doing? How can we better? How can we differentiate? Where does that risk sit? It's not all about fluffy pictures. It should be brought back to those really core, marketing principles.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what's really interesting about that actually is yeah, when you've got that kind of growth strategy in, you've then got your longer kind of vision of targets, because
Mm.
this is another thing as well. I think, a lot of companies I see where they don't have the growth strategy in place, and the growth strategy isn't just about, getting to X million, billion, whatever it is at the end of, this quarter or whatever. There's lots of different other aspects around what, growing kind of looks like, what type of company that you want to be, and what industries that you want to be selling to,
And
and
it's also
product.
not commercial.
Yeah,
It's
exactly. Yeah.
not just, and I say commercial with purpose. It
Yeah.
is neither marketing nor sales. It
Yeah.
is the entity of the organization. It's
Yeah.
every touch point.
It,
It's every interaction. It's everything we do with intent. How are we pushing forward to achieve that end goal?
yeah, 100%. I love that. So, like, how then do we, and I agree with you, it is a partnership, like, but how do we get our partner kind of on board with that thinking then? Um, that it is about all of those things. It's about brand perception. It's about having that customer voice in the room. All of the things where the chief commercial person is always focused on the numbers, rightly so, because that's
Yeah.
their job. So yeah, how do we get them to believe that?
So how do we show the value of what we're doing, I guess?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, marketers, we love talking about campaigns and brand and look and feel and all the fun, all the vibes, right? All the feels and all the vibes.
Yeah.
And that is often super intangible, unless you have really great ways of measuring it. And commercial, as we said, are about risk, return, certainty. There's robustness with what they're doing. They know their numbers like the back of their hand. I think the sweet spot here is bridging the gap. It's translating what we're saying into speak that they understand. So let me give you an example. Okay. Instead of, okay, we need a new brand program or we need brand investment. Because I'd be like, why? What are you going to do? Just another picture, blah, blah, blah. I would move forward with something along the lines of, here's where the future demand is going to dry up if we don't act now with X, Y, and Z. So it's linking back all the time what you're doing to a result, or to, I guess, stop something from happening, to change the course,
Mm.
to commercialize an opportunity.
Yeah.
So it's stopping talking about impressions and reach. You
Yeah.
can do that in the level that it needs to be, but at board level, that's not what the business really needs. And if that's what they're focused on, then they need re-educating.
Yeah.
So it's stopping talking about that. It's definitely starting to talk about penetration, conversion, efficiency, repeat business, the actual cost of sales, and how brand actually in the longer term brings that down. So it's about trying to educate about why we care about brand and why we want to split our budget between the long and the short of it. Because if we just focus on tactical sales generation, that's going to cost, you're going to burn cash.
Yeah,
In the
exactly.
short term and the long term. I would rather spend money in the short term to be building a plan for the longer term.
Yeah, exactly. It's about seeing the trends, isn't it? Or looking for trends and then being
Trying
able
to
to,
predict the future. That is,
yeah,
as marketers, what we try to do. Get the crystal
exactly.
ball out and a bit of data, and we're nearly there.
Yeah, yeah. But that's, I mean, that's all we're doing kind of in terms of that strategy. I say that all the time. It's like, you know, you use the data that you've got. The data that you've got is not going to give you the answer. It's just going to be able, enable you to make a prediction about what you sort of think is the best course, I suppose, or objective, like, you know, for
Yeah,
the year. And then you just go out to prove that, right?
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Ideally.
Yeah, I did. Oh, it's easy. End of podcast. Goodbye. I know. Well, so I mean, well, it's a good point. Then this is the thing that is quite interesting, isn't it? Because it's almost like oh, I have this thing with my husband all the time, right? When we were going out for a drive somewhere and there's a bit of traffic, because I am that person where I will go the long way round to a place, something that does take a little bit longer, but is a better journey. Because
Mm.
I prefer to be kind of like moving. I think it's more like kind of economical than kind of sitting in a um
More
uh,
action oriented.
yeah, more actually, exactly. Sitting in a kind of a, you know, traffic jam on the motorway, just burning through kind of petrol with your stop, start all the time. I prefer to kind of, you know, sort of keep going. And yeah, okay, it might be a little bit longer, but actually it might kind of get you there at the same time. It's just kind of a little bit of a different route. I always go off piece with these analogies. The point
I
I'm
got you.
making
No, I'm there with you. I'm fine.
the point I'm making is it's just two ways to get to the same place, isn't
Yeah.
it? So it just kind of seems a bit like silly that there is that sort of misalignment. But I suppose it's life and it happens. And you know, what can a business do then? Let me spin it round the other way,
Okay.
actually. Then, in your view, because rather than sort of seeing it from our angle, I suppose as a CMO and thinking, well, how do we change the view of the CCO? Maybe it's a little bit more then from what you're saying of like a growth strategy, like a business conversation of how do we get them to kind of see that actually there's just these two routes of getting there. One's neither better than the other. It's just which one do we take?
Um, I mean, it's a great question. I think it depends on the business.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had examples where I've been, you know, hand in hand, literally, with a commercial director. We both had positions on the board, and it was, I'm not going to lie, a really great experience. And that's where a lot of my feeling has come from. It is when it works and it works in harmony. It's a beautiful thing to behold. It is working hand in glove. It's covering for each other. It's, you know, furthering each other's agenda in many respects, because the understanding is if we both succeed, the business hits the big time massively, and everything that we're trying to achieve we get. If we work separately, we might still get there, but we're all going to be a bit bruised and it's going to take a lot longer. So
Yeah.
what we aimed for and what we got was, I would class it as frictionless symbiosis. We fed off each other, and we worked hand in hand, and we tried to ensure the teams did the same thing.
Mm.
And I think that, I mean, that's a positive, right? I'm sure there's 100 examples where it's all gone horribly wrong, but my point is it can work, and it can work really well. Part of it's just education. There is very little way that one person can do those two massive jobs appropriately. One will always suffer,
Yeah. 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 That's such a good point. Yeah.
right? It's kind of, if we wanted to go really, really random, it's kind of like a Siamese twins analogy. There will always be one that will thrive while the other one doesn't necessarily.
Yeah.
What you're looking for is that frictionless symbiosis. So it's for the good of both, for the good of all.
Yeah. And to have that frictionless symbiosis, you do need to have um, a degree of separation in a
Oh
way.
God,
Yeah.
he had his whole thing going on,
Yeah.
We had ours going on,
Yeah.
but there was core aspects that we came together on.
Mm.
There was no, there was no question who's the stakeholder in this particular project. Who, what does he need to sign off on versus what do I need to sign? We both had our lanes,
Mm.
but we both came together for the good of the customer and the good of the business.
Yeah.
And I think, and it was exemplary, probably for that very reason. And
Yeah.
that was in a business that was in hypergrowth.
And do you think that was the key then, having that conversation up front of saying, like these are the not so much the lanes as in like you're not going to be totally separating it, but accountability, there we go, just agreeing kind of like this is what I'm accountable
Yeah,
for. We're going to work together on things like super closely together, but at the end of the day, this is kind of what I'm accountable for and this is what you're accountable for. Yeah.
absolutely. I'm in an embed at the moment and looking after a particular growth function, and the the lead marketer there is trying to gather that senior leadership team together to actually say, right, what are the things we need to do individually, but most crucially, what do we need to do together? How
Yeah.
can we work best together? And I think and that's just from a marketing point of view, because it's quite a disparate customer directorate, but how do we come together? Because there's more power in it. We can achieve more
Yeah.
together on these really important things. So whether it's, in the example of that I just gave, like whether it was a website build or whether it was, I implemented a massive amount of thought leadership strategy when I was on that board, and I couldn't have done that if I did not have the buy-in from the commercial guy. There's no way, because it was his team front and center, talking about the things that I needed them to talk about in order to help achieve my brand goals and his sales goals. And it was literally hand in glove. And I think what was brilliant was when I was at the board talking about why I needed my marketing budget to increase by X, because actually we needed to get an external SEO. He's there backing me up all the way. If we can't do that, our cost of sales is going to go through the roof.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really
That's what you
interesting.
want.
Yeah, I've been talking a lot to people at the moment about leadership. It's just it keeps coming up kind of recently, talking about
Yep.
leadership. And one of the biggest things that we keep kind of talking about, or I keep talking to people about, is everyone thinks about leadership as having all the answers, as almost being a bit of an expert, of going into a room and being able to say, right guys, like this is how we're doing things, I'm the leader, and it's
Yep.
not. It's actually about being able to go into the room and having the balls to kind of put your hands up and say, this is what I know, but this is also what I don't know, because the leadership is, it's a team, right? The leadership is a team for a reason. We all come together because we all know or experts in our respective areas, but then actually it's the sum of all of the parts together that kind of makes the magic happen.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to be to have that as a safe space and be able to hold your hands up and say, like, I need help here, we need to work together. And I think this is where you've kind of summed it up like really nicely, what I'm taking away from this conversation. Like, it is about having that safe space and that mutual respect for each other, but also being able to kind of communicate and say, like, this is what I know, this is what I don't know, and we can plug the gaps in together, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing. Marketing sometimes um, take the they'll take the mantle of the creatives and the workshoppers, and it's like, oh no, we're going to get a whiteboard and or a smart board, and we're gonna do some stuff. The best people to have in there are the people that are talking day after day to your sales, to your customers,
Yeah.
and the salespeople, from the execs all the way up to the commercial directors or the CCOs or the CROs. They know what will fly.
Yeah.
Mostly they obviously don't get the full say, because especially if you're trying that whole future prediction and trying to find those opportunities, sometimes you have to push back and sometimes you have to take a risk,
Mm.
right? And sometimes we just don't know. We're going to test and learn and we're going to see, but can you back us? And if it, we'll give it a quarter, and if it doesn't turn, okay, we'll ditch and try something else.
Yeah.
All they're giving at that point then is their time, but we're respecting their expertise rather than, trying to sink their battleship consistently, which I've been in those organisations as well, and that's not quite so fun.
No, it's really not. It's not a nice place to work. It's not where you want to be. You're not getting
No,
any
not
job
really.
satisfaction.
No.
So if we had a bunch of CMOs or a CMO that was
Yeah.
listening to this right now, and they are in that situation where they are kind of, sales bitch, or they are,
Yeah.
yeah, the kind of seen as a bit of a sales support function. Like, what would you say? What's the one thing that you would say? Go and do this tomorrow to help to turn them, from that kind of like lead gen sort of factory into like a growth engine.
Oh, I have a couple, probably not one.
Go on.
I would say stop presenting activity. It
Mm,
looks good, but it lacks impact at the higher level. Stop doing work that isn't linked to any KPIs that mean anything to the business. So that lanyard design might be super important for Mr. Salesperson over doing an exhibition, but put in a self-serve system and let him do it himself would be my suggestion. Start focusing on growth and tangible impacts. So be relentless about championing the customer. Be relentless about it. Don't get into your own marketing head about things. And, when you're championing the customer and when you're planning your activity and when you're planning your strategic responses, do it in a measurable way. Always be understanding of the value that you're bringing. And also, your team will love you for it because they want to add value to the business. They don't want to just be seen as ineffectual. So they want to have KPIs and they want to be able to achieve them. And the next thing I would do is, you probably guess, make friends with your commercial neighbours, and help them focus on delivering value. Make it be seen as a two-way street, and there's enough space for you in both of those lanes, and aim for that frictionless symbiosis. Because I think I've said it before, there is absolute power in that dual relationship. And it is a case of two chiefs are better than one. They are absolutely better than one. Just, if you're getting someone like me, 25 years in marketing, and you're getting, a salesperson who's got 25 years in sales, that's a power duo, whether
yeah.
that's full-time or part-time. That's a
Yeah.
powerful duo. And that is frictionless symbiosis with commercial is what I would say everyone should be aiming for.
I love it. That's amazing. Thank you so much. What a great place
Very welcome.
start to end. So I have just one very last question. I always, it's a bit of a tradition on the podcast that
Okay.
I have a bunch of questions that I've asked my community, and I say to them, if you had a marketing leader standing in front of you right now and you could ask them one question, what would it be? So I have some questions. So they don't know it's you. This is not specifically for you. It's a bit of a random question.
Okay.
The question picked out for you today is, what is your favorite tool, marketing tool right now, or any tool actually?
Oh, that's a good one. So I am going to. Can I give you one? Okay, I'll give you one for the good of the business and one for me personally.
Oh, okay. I love that.
So I am loving Trello and Asana for my personal. I'm finding that with so many with different clients and so many different projects afoot, actually having that carb mentality is really good, and it's taking me some rigor, shall we say, of self control to make sure I'm putting everything on there. But that is useful.
Yeah.
And I would say for any business, if you are not, and this regardless of the size of the business, if you're not seriously considering some kind of self-serve tool to free up your marketing and creative teams, you should be. So I would say the easiest one is probably Canva. You can get a branded hub in there really easily. Get your creatives to create a load of templates that are signed off in brand tone and voice, and just let people go to the races with producing what they need to do, which can aid them in building their own brand on LinkedIn, for example. So if you're not doing that, you absolutely should.
Yep.
And
Love
obviously
that.
I'm available to consult should you require assistance. But I think, it is beyond time for people to be able to do these things themselves, which frees up ever decreasing marketing time to focus on strategic marketing rather than lanyard design or social media templates, which frankly anyone can do.
Exactly. There's a podcast that I did with someone a while back, a lady, amazing lady, and she said a phrase that I absolutely love. And it's called, she says, still with pride. So it's when people have got like lots of different like marketing ideas, and like some of them some of them you can still with pride, some of them you can just okay, that's great, thank you very much. But yeah, I love that, when letting people loose on the kind of creativity, because then you can still with pride, you've got hundreds of people then, or however many people, playing around, being creative with lots of different ideas, and all for free, like not just contained within your marketing team. So it's fantastic. I like that. Brilliant. Thank you. We've run out of time, but yeah, maybe we'll have you back then, because there's definitely a lot more conversations to be had.
So many more things to talk about.
Thanks very much, Michelle. It was a really, really great conversation. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
You are so welcome. Thanks for having me, Lucy.
Bye.